Hey Danielle, it looks like we have everybody here that is supposed to be in the class. So if you want to, it looks like we got another person coming. Um, someone must have registered. But if you want to start kicking the class off, you're more than welcome to. I know we're about 10 seconds
That's
away
right.
from 9 o'clock.
Absolutely no worries. We'll go ahead and get started. No worries. Thank you. All right. Welcome to the CRS Data MLS Tax Suite Basics and Beyond. My name is Danielle Longdu, and I work with CRS Data as their Customer Education Manager. Nicole Morgan was scheduled to host today's webinar, but unfortunately, due to circumstances out of her hands and control, she has decided to divert to me to be able to train and get you familiar with all of the tools and features built into the MLS tax suite, along with some enhancements and increases in your counties to an added fiber homes feature, along with Google Maps. And we'll talk about this as we go through today's webinar. Today's webinar is right around about an hour and 15 minutes. We have built in time for questions. But with that being said, everyone is muted. This is fantastic. This is just going to limit any background noise that might come through. So with that being said, please make sure if you do have questions throughout today, um, you can enter those into the chat. If I don't answer your question right away, please note I will answer your questions by the end of today's webinar. So what are we going to learn today? Today we're going to start with how do we access the MLS tax suite. Just very quick, going through your MLS system or your dashboard, going into the MLS tax suite, going into our results page, looking at our different views to be able to answer questions your clients have, from maybe lead generation to is properties in a flood zone and so forth. We will end today's webinar with the property report, looking at different customizations, and then finally ending with map layers, what kind of layers you can place on a map. Today's webinar is being recorded for your knowledge. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. I've already logged into your dashboard. Now, from your dashboard, we can go a variety of different ways to access the MLS tax suite. But prior to jumping in, I do want to kind of give you differences between your two systems. And they are fantastic systems to be together, Paragon and the MLS tax suite. Now, Paragon, fantastic tool. There's multiple ways to go in and access the tax suite. But kind of give you some background, Paragon is where you list and sell your properties. Fantastic. What the MLS tax suite brings to you is the public tax records so that you'll get a full view or 360 view of the property and what the county has recorded at the county level. We use multiple different sources from the assessor's office to the deeds office, all the way to FEMA to bring you this one-stop shop. Now, because we are integrated with Paragon, you will always log into your dashboard. If you want to access a property directly in the tax records, just simply tap on the CRS data tax icon. And this will take you directly into the simple search page where you can begin to enter a piece of criteria to look up the property report, or maybe you're looking to generate a list of properties. However, you might want to go in and take a look at your listings. So I'm going to tap on Paragon icon from your dashboard. Now, as I pull up Paragon, um, there are different avenues to access the tax records. And it really kind of based on what you are currently looking for. The first place we can access or enter into the MLS tax suite is from a listing. And it's very specific. It's going to be for that listing. What does the public tax records have recorded for that specific address or parcel ID if it is raw land? Now we've got a list of statuses here. You can go into any one of these statuses, but for today's purposes, I'm going to go ahead and go into new. As the new results list appears, what we need to look for is what we call the plug, skittles, and so forth. This is your integration point between the two systems. As I tap on the plug, what you're going to see is CRS data, and there's 4 links for that specific listing. We can go in and take a look at the comparables. One thing about generating a CMA through CRS is we look at the county, and then we can go ahead and identify the properties that have been listed and sold through Paragon. And you might find a property that's sold outside your MLS within that last 12-month period. Demographics, we'll pull up the demographics report. We can take a look at certain items within that census tract and block. A map, maybe we need to go in and look at the map and look at the surrounding properties in terms of flood zone, maybe last sales price, all the way to are there any other properties currently for sale within a certain mileage of your listing? Or maybe we just want to go in and look at the narrative of the property report from the time it was vacant property all the way to structure. That includes sales history, mortgage history. We even include any time the property has been listed and sold in Paragon, and we'll go through that as we look at the property report. What happens if a property's never been listed or sold through Paragon? Maybe it was developed by a developer who does not utilize your MLS system, or it was never sold through your MLS, still the same owner since the day it was built. Well, at the very, very top of the page, you have a row of icons. One of those icons is tax. So if we tap on tax, you'll see a drop-down menu. And what you're really going to look for is the tax integration. We're going to simply tap on the CRS data tax search. Now, we do use what's called an SSO, single service logon. Basically, what we do, CRS, is we take your credentials from your dashboard, what you log in with, and we simply slide you in to make the workflow very simple and easy and effective so that you can go between the two systems without any login challenges. So now we're in the MLS tax suite. A couple of things to note. In the upper left-hand corner, you do have a home button. And then you also have the MLS tax suite. Now, both options act as a button where you can return back to your simple search page. So anywhere in the system, from a property report to prospecting, tap on either one of those options, you will return to this page. Scrolling over to the far right, we have this option for settings, also known as end user customizations. You can customize different areas throughout our system, whether it's selecting your map view or it's selecting your default counties, even entering your branding. Let's explore. As we come into the settings page, we have branding all the way down to home improvement. For this section of the webinar, we will talk about branding, email address. We've added a bunch of counties that you'll have access to the public tax records for and search settings. First one is your branding. Well, what can we do? You can upload a photo, whether it's your headshot or it's your business card, whatever you prefer. Simply upload your photo. Now, if your photo doesn't contain contact information, no worries. To the right-hand side, you can enter your name, company. You can add multiple phone numbers, email address, along with a personal note, something that will catch someone's attention. Well, once you've entered all of your information, simply tap Save. Best part about this is anytime you email, save, print, or copy property report, a map with layers and or measurements, or client ready report, Your contact information will be in the upper left-hand corner. So whoever you send the information to will know exactly who to contact regarding their questions about that particular piece of information. Next option is your default email address. As I just mentioned, you can email property reports, maps, and client-ready reports out of our system. If you enter your default email address, all you'll have to do is enter the recipient's address. Where is it going? Is it going to a colleague? Is it going to a client? And so forth. It's as simple as that. It's a time saver. And it also looks like it comes from your email address versus a CRS data address. Default counties. As I've been saying, we've added multiple additional counties to your access. So where you see your default county search, if you tap on the box, you now have your drop-down menu, which includes cities where applicable, and then counties. And here is your list of counties. Now, when it comes to your default counties, you can add up to 4. So as you go through, which counties or city do you work in the most? Would be a good question to answer. And again, you can set up to 4. Do you have to set up default counties or cities? No. The system will just revert back to the county or city you were searching last. Next option is your search settings. So as we look at your search settings, we have 3 different ways you can search, and it's based on your project or your task that you are researching. Simple search, maybe you need to look up a property report. Simply put in some criteria and you are looking at the property report. Or maybe you need to look up a subdivision. We can go in and utilize the simple search. Advanced search is fantastic for when you have a research project to pull up properties that are on market versus off market. Maybe you have a client that wants to live within a certain range or mileage of a center point. Maybe it's a school. Maybe it's a doctor that needs to live within a certain range of a hospital. Well, advanced search is fantastic because we can use our map along with our filters. Maps. Well, the great news is about a week ago, we actually switched over to Google Maps. So now you have that access of Google Maps, clear photos, more updates, and it is a fantastic mapping system that we have seen great feedback regarding. We can also use the maps in terms of generating a list of properties around specific areas, or maybe we need to see where these properties are plotted within a county. We can place map layers. Maybe you have a client that wants to live in the southeast side of the county and the northeast. We can go ahead and draw shapes on the map to generate that list of properties. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to return back to our previous, which would drop us at our simple search. As we look at the simple search, property search, one advantage of using this particular software is we have all the properties in a county because we are using those county sources to gather all of those parcels. Second, we'll show the transfers. Transfers could be due to a divorce, could be a FSBO. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it could be from a developer, investor, or a builder that does not utilize an MLS system, but those properties need to be recorded at the county level. Prospecting. This is what we call as wide net prospecting. You don't have a center, but we can utilize filters in a map to generate that list. 2 options here, property, and then you have a very specialized search, which is foreclosures. Let's take a peek. Now, we do have our county box. I'm going to go ahead and tap in the county box. And again, we have this option to select from a drop-down menu. What types of foreclosures can we search by? Tap on that all option, you have auctions and list pendants. But maybe you're more interested in active foreclosure records only. Simply tap on the box and you'll see a check mark. Maybe you want to refine or look at different aspects of foreclosures from the file date to the mortgage amount, location, starting with street number, street name, zip code, even entering subdivision name or names. You can enter multiples here. Once you've entered your criteria, scroll to the bottom right-hand corner and click on Submit, and you would see your results page. Now, once you return back to your initial search page, tap on Clear, run an additional search, or if you want to return back to your simple search, we can go up, tap on the MLS tax suite, and we return to the simple search. Now you'll see I have two options in my county and city box search, but again, I can adjust this accordingly. What can you search by? Owner's last name, followed by the first name, address, subdivision, parcel ID, even MLS listing numbers. So those numbers that are created when you list a property, if you are a listing agent, we can utilize those numbers to search for the property. All right, now it's simply start typing. So I'm going to type in an owner's last name. Now there's two searches we're going to talk about today. The very first one you will see is starts with, or called simple search. So everything in my drop-down menu starts with Johnson. Now your criteria is identified by the blue bar that highlights each criteria. So we have owner's name, and to the right we have view more, which allows you to be solely in that criteria's bucket of data. Street address with view more, and then subdivision. I do recommend going directly into the criteria bucket of data that you are searching, space, and then start typing the owner's first name. Once you see the owner's first name, simply select it from the drop-down menu, and we're moving on to the property report, or if they own multiple properties, we would be taken to a results page. All right, let's go ahead and talk about addresses. Before we go into the address example, I do want to point this out because we are specifically in the owner's name bucket of data. Where we saw view more, we now see return to full options. So I'm going to tap return to full options, and now we see street address and subdivision again. So let's go ahead and look up 1365 Amber Ridge Road. Now the tip here is to watch that drop-down menu. So 1365. And as I look at the drop-down menu, my very first option is the property I'm looking for. So I can simply select it from the drop-down menu and move on to the property report and complete the task that I needed to look for. As you are typing in addresses, this just pretty much applies to subdivision and so forth. Watch that drop-down menu as we will populate that address before you get into road, way, lane, and so forth. Let CRS data do the heavy lifting when it comes to searching. Okay, let's go ahead and back up. So far we have been working with the search where we know what our criteria starts with. Well, there might come a time when we don't. Maybe you need to look up a subdivision that has forest in the name. Well, we don't know if it starts with or it's, something forest. What we can do here is generate a list by utilizing what we call the wildcard search or contained search. That will start with a percent sign. Once we have the percent sign, we can type what we know. And what's going to happen is The system's going to go out and search for owner's name, street address, and subdivisions that contain the letters that I type, forest. So as we look at our drop-down menu, we can see owner's names that contain forest, street addresses that contain forest, and subdivisions that contain forest. And then we can go and look at our subdivision list of all of the subdivisions that contain forest. So there's two searches. Simple starts with, and then wildcard contains. At the end of our search box, we do have a reminder regarding our wildcard search. Use a wildcard percent if you want to get variations of the term, or if you're not sure about spelling, the example percent lake would yield Lakeside, Lakeview, and even Cooper Lake. All right, let's go ahead and look up a subdivision. We're going to utilize Lake Forest. And there could be multiple reasons for looking up this particular subdivision. And it could range from looking at a list of sections built into the subdivision. So go back. We're actually going to look at Forest Lake. My apologies. So we're going to look at Forest Lake. I'm going to go ahead and look. Now, as we look, we can go ahead and select the very first option, or if we needed to pull all of these subdivisions or phases, we simply scroll over, locate, submit, and click. And we would pull all of the properties. I'm going to go ahead and just tap on Forest Lakes. Now, this is our results page. We call it our simple results page. Let's get familiar. There are 3 different views to help you answer any questions your clients or colleagues might have regarding the subdivision. You are defaulted to what we call is the simple search, which is fantastic for lead generation for multiple different reasons. Maybe you just listed a property here and you want to let the neighborhood know that you're hosting an open house in 2 Sundays. Fantastic. We can go to the bottom, create those mailing labels, or we can go ahead and create an export so you can send it off to your vendor. Maybe we want to see if any of these properties are in a flood zone. You have a map view where we can place map layers to see exactly what types of sales have occurred within this subdivision. We can even refine our list by utilizing our filters on the left-hand side, drawing shapes. Maybe you have a client that wants to only live on Acorn Hill Court. Maybe we need to look at a set of data. Maybe your client has a strict criteria of 3,500 square feet for properties. We can utilize our custom results list. And the best thing about our custom results list, you select the columns of data. Now, familiarize yourself with the page, upper left hand corner. You will find your search results, how many properties are located within this search. We have 1,459 properties. Directly in the center of the page, next to your search results, is the integration point. As I said, we have all the properties in cities and counties, but because we are integrated with Paragon, we can identify the properties that are active, sold, and all the way through to leased, listing, expired. As I scroll, we see the very first icon. Hover over the first icon, and we see a snapshot of Paragon data or MLS data. Starts with the MLS listing number, which just happens to be a reverse link back in a Paragon where we can view the listing and all the data associated with it. We also provide the status, the sold date, even the sold price. As we look at this list, we do have quite a bit of properties. The left-hand side allows you to refine your list. Maybe we're looking for an owner's last name of Rutherford. We simply don't have to go through all 1,459 properties. We simply can search for the last name Rutherford. Tap off to the white space. We're going to scroll down and update our results. And it just happens that there's one property in this subdivision where the owner's last name is Rutherford. We can go ahead and tap on the address and move on to the property report. We can specify a street name we would like to take a look at. You simply type in the street name, select it from your drop-down menu, and update. So we're going to look specifically at Acorn Hill Court. And we have 5 properties. If we were looking at condos, you can enter the unit number, maybe even a parcel ID. Maybe you know the MLS listing ID. So a multitude of different ways to refine your list. Now, as we look at this page, as I said, the very first default view you will see is simple. Now, with simple, if you tap on the address of a property, it'll take you right into the property report. There is a feature if you come from a list into a property report. Just above the small map, we can actually go through each one of those property reports in detail. So as a tip, just remember, if you come from a results list, you have an opportunity to view all the property reports in its entirety. All right, let's go back. Let's move on to our list view, or our map view, not list view. Sorry. Now, as we look, you're going to see your first 15 plotted on the map. When you see those blue markers, you simply can hover over and get a snapshot of sales data, which includes the address, the owner, county, along with the parcel ID, last sales date and price, last transfer date and price, with an option to view the property report. Now, we do have our toolbar. We can zoom in, zoom out. So as we zoom in, we can see where your first 15 properties are located. We have a directional. We are defaulted to what we call the road view. You can switch this to aerial and get more of a picturesque view along with zooming in. We have a recentering button. So if you decide to scroll away from your results and you're unsure of exactly which way you went to return back to your results, simply tap on the compass or recenter your results. We can draw shapes on the map. Maybe your client prefers to live in the south side or southern portion of the subdivision. We can go ahead and use the magnifying glass to draw a shape. Measuring tool, parcel, latitude, longitude, distance, and area. You will find street side in the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see a person, and we can simply tap on the person and walk through street side, which we will explore when we get to the property report view larger map. Great for getting a quick view of the neighborhood you are maybe getting a listing for. Now, since my map is open, we do have a feature. If you collapse the modified results, which is your filters on the left-hand side, you're going to see an option to look at the CRS map layers. So are any of these properties in a flood zone? And it just happens to be yes. Up in this section, there is a potential for properties to be in a flood zone. So very quick and easy, we can tell that from this results page. We can look for recent sales. Now, if recent sales is grayed out, we just need to zoom in and we can place the last 12 months. And you'll see shading come across. Just below the map, you'll see the legend for the shading. We can look at your listings. Are there any active listings in the area? There happens to be one here. And we can left tap and just get that snapshot of sales. Now, if the property is active in your system or any one of those statuses, including sold, an additional feature to go back into Paragon and look at the MLS report. All right, we're going to go ahead and collapse. Let's move on to the final view, which is the custom results view. When it comes to custom results view, here's an opportunity to customize the data you see. Simply scroll back up, tap on settings, go into custom results list, and here are your options. Now, select your top 10. Whether you are generating a list for structures or raw land or commercial properties, you have specific data sets that you have access to. As we scroll down, you have lot, square feet, number of improvements, number of parcels, address, price per acre, and so forth. Now, if you make some changes, just simply tap Save at the bottom right-hand corner, knowing at any time you can reset to default. And please note, this isn't permanent. You can come in and adjust these columns of data at any time. Let's scroll back up, return back to that results page. As I begin to scroll, when we look at our results list in the custom view, you can swipe your finger across the screen. So if you have a touch screen device, you can swipe your finger from right to left or left to right to see the rest of your columns. I'm currently working on an external monitor that is not touch screen, but I know I can scroll to the bottom and I can scroll and see the rest of the data. Now, down at the bottom, we do have some specialized refinement tools. If we need to remove a few properties, there are checkboxes in front of each address. Just simply tap, you'll see a checkbox appear or a check mark appear in the checkbox, and we can tap on remove. Keep check works the opposite. Maybe you have 100 properties, but you only want to keep 25. You check those 25, scroll to the bottom, we'll get rid of the 75. As I was saying, you have an option to create those mailing labels. Here is your create labels box. We can go through and uncheck some of our defaults, maybe check some other options and create those mailing labels. Or we can go ahead and export. You have 59 columns of data to select from. As you currently see on my screen, we have selected certain columns. But if you'd like to select all, please scroll down to the bottom left-hand corner and select all, and then export, with an option to print your list. All right, let's go ahead and scroll up. I'm going to go back to our search. So far we've been working with one piece of criteria, but we might want to work with multiples. Maybe we're doing looking at properties in a radius, maybe on market or off market, and so forth. So we're going to tap on Advanced Search Map Search button. From here, we do have our county box. We can save our criteria. We can save our results. And then as we begin to scroll, our first option is going to be search by a map. Again, we do have our map toolbar, zoom in, zoom out, directional, and then our map gear. Now, we default everyone to those green parcel lines, which you've seen. But if you prefer aerial view, go up to settings. You're going to locate the map and list view option, tap, select the map view type default you prefer. So we can go in and select aerial. And what happens is every time you see a map, it'll be in that picturesque view versus just those green parcel lines. So again, this is more of a preference, but you do have that opportunity to adjust your map views. Now we're going to go back to our previous. Again, we have our drawing tools. And with our drawing tools, you can draw multiple shapes on the map. So if you do have a client that wants to go into southwest side and then the northeast side, we can turn on our zip code layer and you can begin to draw multiple shapes where they prefer to view properties. Now, we also have our measuring tool where it starts with parcel, latitude, longitude, distance, and even area. We have even a bigger map. Underneath the small map, we're going to tap on View Larger Map. Open it up. This is a great size map. To the far right, we do have that map toolbar. And then to the far left, we do have search filters. Now, when it comes to this particular map, you can draw multiple shapes. Use your filters as a refinement tool. We can reverse it and say, well, you can start with your filters, plot the properties, use your map and your drawing tools to refine your list. Let's take a look at our filters. We've got your last sales date. Working with our calendars, this is just a tip. If you tap on a year, it looks like we go back just 10 years. What you want to do here is just tap on 2015 and return back to the year, and we'll show you the next 10 years back. Also, you need to select a specific day. For example, we can select November 1st, 2006, and we'll start pulling the data from that specific date. Last recorded sales price. We can use a range here, min to max, or we can go ahead and utilize the scroll bar. Now, as I'm setting our last sales price by manipulating the scroll bar, if you draw your attention to the center of my screen, you're going to see blue markers. Now, these blue markers have high numbers, like 46, 15, and so forth. All you have to do to see the single blue markers is begin to scroll in. And then you'll start to see those single blue markers where we can hover over to get that snapshot of sales data. Tax appraisal value, last transfer date, owner name. We can look at owner type. Are you looking for specific owner occupied or absentee owners? If you elect absentee owners, we have an additional option where we can be a little bit more specific, in-state, out-of-state, it's your choice. If you want both, just simply select absentee owner. Vacant land, acreage, year built, and then additional property characteristics. We can open up our map layers on the far left-hand side and place a variety of different data sets on the map. Search results, 1,583 properties. View results will take us to our results page, and we are going to continue on to our results page. You'll notice the left-hand side has additional filters. We can look for subdivision. Maybe we're looking for a street, zip codes, parcel ID, specific city, or in this case, we really haven't selected a property type. So we might have commercial and so forth. We're going to look at the property type and select residential. Now, just because I'm selecting one doesn't mean you can't. You can select multiples here. Once I've selected residential, we're just looking at Charlottesville, and we'll make sure we have those two selected and update our results. And we have 528 properties. We can look for vacant land and additional options to refine our list. Because we've come from a map, our map is open. Again, we can hover over to see that snapshot of sales data. But another feature of our maps is if the map is open, we can scroll down and we can view the list of properties with the address, along with there being a marker with a number next to it. If I want to see where 408 First Street North property is located on the map, once I tap on the number 7, the map will zoom into exactly where that particular property is located. We can collapse modified results and open up CRS map layers. Turn on FEMA. Good news is no flood zone. We can look at recent sales, maybe in the last 12 months. And you will see that shading come across. We can turn on listings, anything active or currently sold. Even place foreclosure icons on the map. If we need to return to our initial view, just tap on the compass and it'll bring us to our initial view. Let's move on to our list view. So you will see your simple results view. Tap on the address and move on to that property report. Here's an icon for expired. That gives you that snapshot of data along with a reverse link back into Paragon. We can view the data in terms of the 10 columns. Now, when we present your results list, we present it in terms of numbered streets first, so like 10th Street, and then it goes alphabetically, A through Z. And that might be helpful. But I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and adjust all the way over to total building square feet. Maybe your client wants to see properties that are in a certain building square feet. What we can do here is actually resort the list from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. Once you have located the building square feet column, you're going to left tap on the column header, and we are now sorting by total building square feet, the highest to the lowest. So we can actually go in and view all of the total building square feet. But here's the thing, we can sort by any one of these column headers. Maybe we look at your build, but that's not it. I can left tap, hold, and drag and drop. So we can drag and drop these columns in a manner in which you want to see. Don't forget, you can swipe right to left if you are working on a touchscreen device. And as you've seen, there is a scroll bar at the bottom. I keep saying 15, 15. Well, you have an opportunity to adjust that. Maybe you want to see more or less, either or. Results on a page. Down at the bottom, you can adjust that. To the immediate right, we can tap on the numbers and view the rest of the results. We still have that remove checked. So we need to move individual properties. You have that option. Keep checked. Again, we have that create labels or export or even print. Let's return back to our initial search page. One thing to note is any changes you make on that results page does correlate back to your initial search. So we still have that 528. We can zoom in, and maybe at this point we can begin to draw shapes around the properties we want to keep. In the bottom left-hand corner, we're going to go ahead and start over. So this will clear all of our criteria. And we're going to go back to our advanced search. What types of filters do we have? So as I begin to search, we've got census tract, street name. We can enter multiples here. And it's as simple as start typing the name of the street you want to add. So we'll add Lake Forest Drive. And then just start typing the next street you want to add. So we can add Pine Haven Court. Maybe you have a parcel ID you need to look up. School zone, Henley. So we can type that particular middle school in, select it and add it to our filter. And we can add multiples. So we can add Western. Now that I have those two in, there's a couple of things we can do here. We can look for properties that are currently active in those two school zones. We can even pull off-market properties. Just depends. We're going to leave those two in. As we begin to scroll, we can enter multiple subdivisions, last sales price. Maybe you're looking at a subdivision to see if it's a hot zone. You know, what do the sales look like in the last 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years? Maybe you're doing some pre-comparables work. Maybe you want to go back even further than that. You want to see if there's any properties built into the subdivisions that haven't sold in the last 20 years. We can actually set that last sales date back 20 years or 10. Property characteristics. This is where we can break the properties down. You've got your property types, your land use. As you tap, you will see that drop-down menu appear. And additional property characteristics ranging from number of improvements down to bedrooms and baths, vacant land, extra features. You have a client that's looking for a boathouse or a barn, carport, gazebo, maybe a pool house, cabana. You have those options under extra features. Specific owner type. And then down at the bottom, we can search by listings. Now we can check multiples here, but in this example, remember we do have those two school zones in our filter. So I'm going to look for any property that is currently active in Paragon for those two school zones. Now on my screen, you see that we have two submit buttons. These are floating submit buttons, and you simply tap on one. Doesn't matter which one. And we have 82 properties. Now, don't forget, the left-hand side will allow you to refine this list based on your client's criteria, whether they have a certain building square footage, bedrooms and baths, and so forth. All right, let's go back. Maybe you want to pull a list of off-market properties. Not a problem. We can do that as well. Scroll down to search by listings, uncheck. We can go up to property characteristics. We can go in and look at residential properties. Maybe they're looking for an A-frame or single family residence with 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. Now, don't forget, we still have those school zone filters up at the top, and then we can go ahead and submit. So I have 1,650 properties. And as I begin to scroll, we can come down and look at bedrooms and baths. And update. So we can utilize the left-hand side to continue to refine that list. And maybe you want to export this, show your client, or maybe you want to go ahead and do some lead generation or prospecting. for off-market properties within that school zone or zones. All right. I do recommend always clean your criteria before leaving a search page. So on the bottom right-hand corner, just tap clear. You can also save your criteria, tapping on Save Criteria, and you would find your saved criteria at the very top of the page. Moving back to our simple search page, we're going to go in and view the property report and some customizations that you have. We're going to go into 1365 Amber Ridge Road, tap on the address. Once we are into the property report, at the very top, you have some tools. You have comparables with two options, quick or CMA and client report. We look at prospecting, even facts and figures. And these are fantastic client-ready reports that will support your comparables. We can email, save as a PDF, print, save the report, view MLS info, which is an indication this property is currently listed or was listed in Paragon. We bring in your listing photos. Now, if your listing photos have more than one, underneath the initial photo, we have created a carousel, so you can begin to carousel through the photos. To the immediate right, we see our Google Maps. Your subject property is shaded with lot dimensions. Scrolling down, you have location, property summary, general parcel information, even current owner information, along with your school zone. With each section, you do see a down arrow. If you want to collapse a section, just tap on the down arrow. That will collapse that section. What happens is you see it as grayed out, but when you go to print, email, save, or copy, looks like nothing is there. School zone information. Again, we've got your sales history. Now with your sales history, we do have a minus sign. So if you only want to show the last sale, tap on the minus sign. We'll give you the book page and your document number with a link to View County Land Records, site search, tax assessment, taxes, with an option to view your tax payment history. So throughout the property report, one thing you will see is those blue bars. So we've got view parcel on county GIS map, view county permit site, view/print county all parcel detailed reports. So we give you that opportunity to view the property in a 360-degree view. Mortgage history. If the property's ever been involved in foreclosure, your property characteristics, your extra features, your lot, your utilities, legal description. Something that was newly added is internet access, which is fantastic for clients that work from home. This will provide download speeds and upload speeds if they are available. If you want to learn more about the internet access, there is a link that says courtesy of Fiber Home. So that is another feature we have added recently. Down at the bottom, you've got your flood zone, even your listing archive. With the listing archive, the MLS number is a reverse link. So if the property's ever been listed and sold, you can tap and view that information in Paragon. All right, we're going to go ahead and scroll all the way back up to that small map, because underneath that small map, we have an option to view larger map. Now from here on the far right-hand side, you see our toolbar. We can zoom in, zoom out, directional, map gear, along with an option to view assessor maps. So don't forget, you can view those assessor maps. Dimensions and shading for your subject property, so you can turn them off and on. Your directional. Don't forget you can draw shapes. You also have an option for measurements, and you can even print, email, save, or copy any of these maps where you place measurements and or layers. Question is where are your layers located? Now, this is actually a brand new feature that came out today. Currently, our maps are collapsed. Map layers are collapsed. If I tap on those two arrows in the upper left-hand corner, they open up. But you might prefer to see those map layers when you come into your view larger map. Well, we've actually now have a customization. If you go into settings, go into map and list view, underneath your map view type default you prefer, you can expand CRS map layers in the map view. So anytime you go into one of those maps, it'll already be expanded. So that is something that was rolled out today, and something that clients have asked us for. So we do listen to our clients, and now that is an option. Let's return back to previous. We'll open up that map layers, and let's take a look at recent sales. We can go the last 48 months. We see shading come across. Great news, bottom left-hand corner provides you with the legend. Anything currently shaded in red was sold for less than $320,000. We can place your listing icons on the map, whether it's currently active or sold. We can left tap on those shaded properties and get that snapshot of sales data. We can do the same thing with the icons and get that additional option to view the MLS data. But that's not where it ends. We can left tap on any one of these properties to get that snapshot of sales data. We can even begin to scroll away and the filters will follow us. Go ahead and recenter. I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. We can place foreclosure icons on the map as well. Labels. Now I'm going to show you something that might occur with the labels, and it has to do with your zoom level. No worries though. I'm at a zoom level where some of them are grayed out. Just simply scroll over to the plus sign and you can zoom in and we can place deeded acreage, system calculated acreage, owner name, property address, last parcel ID, last sales date and price. And we can scroll in to see exactly what each parcel and the data has to present to us. And again, if I move away, it follows me. All right, let's go ahead and turn those off. We can turn on FEMA. And if FEMA doesn't show up, we can always zoom out to see if FEMA's anywhere close. In the upper right-hand corner, we do see the teal. Bottom left-hand corner, you will see the legend for FEMA. Topo. Let's talk about zip codes. But zip codes, we need to be really zoomed out to see all of the zip codes. At some point, your subject property will turn into an upside down teardrop. Turn on zip codes. You will see blue boundaries. That's your boundaries for the zip codes. Zip code is in the center of the boundary. Let's move on to school zone information. School zone option shows the boundaries for the public schools, and location option shows where the schools are located. So you have two options for elementary, middle, and high school. Turn on the high school option. And I can go ahead and zoom out. Now, the blue lines are going to show you the boundaries. And then where you see the name of the school, we can zoom in to see the physical location. And that is applied to all of those school names. And again, we do have all public schools. However, we do know that you get asked about non-public schools. Well, we do have other school locations. These would be your Montessori schools, academies, charter schools, anything that would be considered non-public. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the MLS tax suite. Once we're in the tax suite, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you have a help option. This is our help documentation and help center. So if you tap on help, it is content responsive. So it will pull up the simple property search video, which is only like three minutes and 20 seconds, followed by instructional text and screenshots. So this is a great way if you forget about that wildcard search, but you know it exists. This is a great place. We walk you through how to conduct a wildcard search. So that is built into the system. Also, if you scroll all the way to the very, very bottom of the page, you have a contact us. You have access to our help center. We are ready and willing to answer any questions that you might have about the tools and features built into the MLS tax suite. You can call us if that is your preferred method of contacting us. We are at extension 3. Or if you prefer email, just simply tap on feedback, fill out that feedback form, and we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions through email. With that being said, I don't see any questions coming through the chat. So I do want to say thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend the CRS Data MLS Tax Suite Basics and beyond. And I hope you guys have a fantastic Wednesday. And again, thank you for attending the webinar today. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you.